Well, hello, everyone. I think we're going to get going because I know some of you have classes and other commitments. So first, I'd like to say welcome. My name is Tina Buxbaum, and I'm the Executive Director of the Alaska Fellows Program. And I'm in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on the traditional homelands of the Lower Tanana Diné people. So I acknowledge that past, present, and future stewardship and place-based knowledge of the people of these territories. And so you're all here to learn about the Alaska Fellows Program. And so please do interrupt me if anything's confusing or the slides aren't working or whatever like that. And so, yeah, feel free to jump in and ask questions whenever you want. And also you can type them into the chat and we can read them out loud. And if you miss anything, or if you know others that wish they could be here, this is all being recorded, and I will post the recording on the Alaska Fellows website after this is all over. So let's get going. So a little bit of background on the entire program. So it was started by Jonathan Crease Tompkins, right here, the guy on the left, in 2010. And he's from Sitka, Alaska, and now he's Representative Crease Tompkins from Sitka, Alaska in the Alaska State Legislature. But at that time in 2010, he was a student at Yale University. And during the summer, what he started doing is bringing his friends and acquaintances back from Yale to Sitka to work in different organizations around Sitka. And so that was getting more and more popular. And then eventually in 2014, based on the popularity of that, there was some more thought put into it. And really the mission of the Alaska Fellows Program really started to come to the forefront. And what the mission is that there's so many great organizations in Alaska that are doing this really community-oriented work to really help the communities in Alaska and to help the people in Alaska. But oftentimes it's hard to figure out who those organizations are or where you can find them. And they're all greatly in need of all this capacity and this talent in order to do all this great work. And so Jonathan really put together that there could be a program that kind of does this matchmaking where it helps these talented young professionals that are looking for their next steps and looking to launch their careers, figure out how to make connections and how to get into these really community-oriented organizations that need that capacity. So in 2014, it went from being this summer program to being a winter program, so a much longer fellowship where people were coming to Sitka to work in these public sector and nonprofit organizations to really help the community. And so it got more and more popular. And then in 2017, it was expanded into Anchorage, Alaska, and then into Juneau, Alaska. And then just this last year in 2021, it was expanded into Fairbanks. And really, as the program has grown, it's kind of taken on a broader mission of not only bringing talented young professionals into the state to work in these different organizations, but also to combat some of the brain drain problem of where talented professionals in Alaska, they leave for college and then they don't come back because they don't know how to get into these different organizations within the state and to give back to their state, even though they may really want to come back. So now it's kind of two prongs where we're working on bringing talented young professionals into the state to work in these really community-oriented organizations and also to keep talented young professionals in the state. So a few basics, just so that you're all on the same page. As I mentioned, the program is geared towards early career professionals that are really interested in coming to Alaska and being invested in the community. So it's there's three pillars of the program. There's the professional opportunity where you're paired with a mentor at your host organization, and you're really growing in your career field. but then also you're living in community with other fellows that are also going through the same experience. So you're really building these rich connections between other people that are at the same point in their life and are going through these same like growing periods and these same experiences. And then we really help the fellows become connected to their community outside of their professional work environment. So if you want to be in a community play, we help you figure that out. If you want to join a sports league, we help you figure that out. If you want to join the volunteer fire department, you know, we make sure that is available. So we really want you to become embedded in the community. And as I mentioned, it's in Anchorage and Juneau and Sitka and Fairbanks. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the when here in a little bit, but in general, September through May is when the fellowship period is, except for in Juneau, where it's October through April. So let's talk about the locations. Here is a nice map of Alaska, and I'll walk you through the 4 different sites, starting with Anchorage. So Anchorage is by far the biggest community in Alaska. There's about 300,000 people that live in Anchorage and another 150 or so that live within a couple hours driving distance. So it's a city. It has all the amenities that a city would have. So it is, yes, it's a large community. It's also right on the ocean. And so it's very moderated by ocean temperatures. So think winter temperatures between 10 degrees to 40 degrees and summer temperatures between about 40 to 65 degrees. So it's really moderate. They tend to get a lot of snow in the winter, but it doesn't get super hot in the summer. And these are the two houses that we have in Anchorage, and they're just right around the corner from each other. So you can walk between houses. So there's 15th Avenue and Virginia Court, and they're both kind of in Midtown Anchorage, right on Westchester Lagoon. So if you like to ice skate or if you like to cross country ski, you literally can walk out your back door and go do those things. And each house, 15th Ave has 3 bedrooms and Virginia Court has 4 bedrooms. And let's see. So then moving on to Fairbanks. Fairbanks is, it's a continental climate. It's right in the middle of the state. And I should mention that both Anchorage and Fairbanks are on the road system. So you can drive between these 2 communities. Sitka and Juneau are not on the road system. So Fairbanks is, because it's continental and in the middle of the state, it's a long ways from any ocean. So it is hot in the summer and cold in the winter. So think negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit / Celsius in the winter and 85, 90 degrees in the summer. It's a boreal forest ecosystem. So big birch trees, cottonwood trees. Fall, for the 2 weeks that fall lasts, is beautiful. Lots of moose. And the city itself is, if you look up the population, it says about 30,000, but the city limits are really small. So there's probably about 70,000 people within the greater Fairbanks area. It does house the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which is the major research university in Alaska. So there's a lot of amenities in Fairbanks that it shouldn't necessarily have for its size. It has a symphony orchestra and a ballet and all those different things. And if you notice in this picture, for any of the fellow or any of you that end up in Fairbanks, it has this weird quirk where the carrots that are grown in Fairbanks are absolutely amazing. It's like eating straight carrot cake in a carrot form. So yeah, it's a very, very weird, weird thing for here, but they are amazing. They are my 5-year-old's absolute favorite food, if that's not odd to have a 5-year-old that loves carrots. So. And in Fairbanks, the fellows live at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Sustainable Village, which are these 4 houses right here that they're an experimental building design built on permafrost. And the fellows actually live in this house right here and this house right here. And each house is 4 bedrooms. So then Juneau. So Juneau is where we moved down to Southeast Alaska. Southeast Alaska is a temperate rainforest, so it's very wet and not very warm, but not very cold. So think 20 degrees to 40 degrees in the winter and 40 degrees to 60 degrees in the summer. Juneau is the capital of Alaska, so it's got it has interesting population dynamics where it goes from during legislative session, you have the entire state legislature that moves into the community. And then also in the summer, it's heavily driven by tourism. So there's cruise ships and other things that come in the summer. Show you some pictures. It is located in the Tlingit and Haida traditional homelands. So there's a very rich indigenous culture in Juneau. And it's right on the ocean, as you can see. And it is only accessible by ferry and plane. So you cannot drive to and from Juneau. And and I should mention, it's about 30,000 people. So it's kind of a moderate sized city. And the fellows live in 2 apartments that are right downtown in the thick of things. So if you can see, the fellows apartment is right tucked back in here, or right in here on this picture. So it's a beautiful location right by the waterfront with great big mountains right behind. They have wildlife that wanders through. So one of the current fellows this year, literally on his first day there, stepped out his back door and there was a black bear wandering by. So it's, despite being right downtown in the city, you're still in Alaska. And then last but not least, Sitka, where the whole program started. So Sitka is also in Southeast, also temperate rainforest. It's a community of about 8,500 people. So it's relatively small. It's completely a walking community. You can get around just fine without ever having a car. There's amazing hikes right out your back door, or you can go onto all the tidal pools and find all sorts of amazing things. It's also a fishing community and located right in the Baranof Islands. And again, it's only accessible by ferry and by plane. And the fellows live all in one house in Sitka at 700 Etolin Street. And it's a quirky, every room is a completely different space. And it's a fun house right in the heart of Sitka. So we've kind of walked through the communities and the different housing. So here's just a smattering of all the different hosts. I didn't put all the hosts on this slide because there are 27 different hosts. And so it would be pretty much just a candy dish of logos. But this can kind of give you an example of the whole breadth of host opportunities that there are, from Alaska's Children's Trust, which is really focused on preventing child abuse, to Alaska Center Ice, which is at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and is really focused on helping entrepreneurs and helping inventors transfer their ideas out into the world. Alaska Space Grant up here, which is looking at anything having to do with remote sensing and anything having to do with space. Mount Edgecombe High School, where they're looking for 3 different fellows that will be working directly with high school students. See Alaska Heritage has 2 different positions that they're looking for, and they're a Native corporation. And then One Health down here is a organization in Fairbanks that is really looking into the intersection between human health and animal health and environmental health. And this is just a broad brush example of all the different host organizations. There's you really do have to check out the position descriptions to see all the different hosts. And so now, what really makes the Alaska Fellows Program different than something like Vista Volunteers or the Jesuit Volunteer Corps is that the idea of it being a full experience is really baked into the program. So we have opening and closing retreats and convenings. So we bring all of the fellows together to meet each other across the different site locations. So there's really this connection across the different sites and across Alaska. So we bring everyone together at the beginning, and then we also bring them together at the end to share their experiences. And then within each site, there's also opening and closing retreats to really help initiate the sense of community and then to help kind of close the program down. Each site also has dedicated site coordinators that are your first point of contact within the communities, and they're there to help you like find the connections or find what makes you happy in the community. So do you need to figure out where a soccer league is or where you can get connected with that? They're your point of contact. They're going to help you figure out how to navigate, if you need to go to a doctor in town, they can help you navigate how to find that person in town. So they're really your person in town to help you network into the community. And they're also often past alumni of the program. So they're also this point of contact into this broad alumni network of all the fellows that are still in town. And so it's this instant family and network that you can plug into. And then throughout the year, we have various program events that are run by the program, including we have one site coordinator that runs a film festival, or we bring in some different Indigenous speakers so that you can more fully understand the Indigenous context of Alaska, because Alaska has, I think, 229 federally recognized tribes. So it's a very rich Indigenous culture, and you want to understand that. So we do these events throughout the year to really help fellows not only have this work experience, but also to have this community building experience and feel like they're part of the community. So a little more about the opening and closing events. They are required events. And so the opening event will be on the road system, and it'll be just outside of Anchorage. So everyone will be brought there to really get to know each other and to also experience the road system part of Alaska. And then the closing event is in Juneau, usually focused around the Juneau Folk Festival, which happens in April. So then all the fellows also get to travel to Southeast. So that way, you don't just experience the folks on the road system, don't just experience the road system, and the folks in Southeast don't just experience Southeast. We want everyone to experience as much of Alaska as possible and to really understand how big and how diverse the state is. And then within each site, we do, the site coordinators help coordinate the site-specific opening and closing events. And they're usually at a cabin or some kind of fun destination so that you get out and about and can really experience Alaska. So that's kind of that part. There's also the professional experience. So this is where you're with your host organization. We work really hard with hosts to designate mentors at each host organization that will be your person there, that will help you grow in the position and really make those connections and make that professional experience. And we work really closely with hosts because this is not an internship experience. We're not putting people at hosts to make copies and to get coffee and stuff like that. That's not what you will be doing. We want this really to be a capacity building for the hosts and really a growth experience for the fellows. So you're going to work on projects there that are actually meaningful and really contribute to the host organization. And really, we want you to be able to grow professionally and to make connections so that if you want to stay in the state, you have all of that experience and connections to do that. And it's a professional growth experience. It's not just biding your time and making some money. So it's really, we want you to be integrated into the hosts. And then the other part of it is we really stress that communal living is a big part of this program. You are living intentionally together with other fellows. We really strive to promote the idea of treating it kind of like a family experience where you have weekly family dinners so everyone gets together. You try to get out and get to really know your different fellows. We also have the fellows, they write both a fall and a spring newsletter to share their experiences, who they are. with each other, and then also with their friends and family back home and with other alumni and stuff, to help build that sense of community and connection across years and across the different locations. And then we really encourage everybody to build your own traditions. So if you can see in this picture, this cohort, they like to do different art events. So they've been collecting different drawings and different things that they've done, and they're pretty much wallpapering the house in Sitka with their different artwork. And I know this year the Juneau cohort, they got super into painting, and they're doing a First Friday event in their apartment with all of their different paintings and stuff like that. So we really encourage the fellows to figure out how they can own it and how they can really make this program their own. And then they're really encouraged. Again, I'm stressing that there's this communal living, making connections with each other, and then also making connections into the community. So you can see in this picture right here, the Fairbanks fellows, they ended up getting connected with a local radio station, and they had a weekly radio program where they talked about Taylor Swift, and they played different Taylor Swift music. And then they also talked about how Fairbanks has, I think, 30 different Thai restaurants. So every week they gave a review of a different Thai restaurant. So that was their weekly radio program where they were getting out into the community. We had one of the Sitka fellows this year ended up getting certified to be a volunteer fireman. And so he's in the fire department at Sitka on his free time. The Anchorage fellows down here at the bottom, they really connected with some of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps folks in town, and have been doing a lot of different cross events with other volunteer organizations in town. And then this is a drawing from one of the Juneau fellows where they were taking some Indigenous artwork classes, and they've really gotten excited about learning about the different Indigenous art of the Juneau region and working on learning how to draw and paint and sculpt and stuff. So we really want you to figure out what is your thing and how can your thing be tied into your community, and what makes you feel fulfilled within your community. And just a little bit of a program impact. So we have alumni from over 6 countries and 31 different states, and it's growing every day. And right now, almost half of alumni stay in the state for at least 1 year post-fellowship. And we're also tracking folks to see how many people, like if you stay for a few years and then you decide to leave and go to graduate school, do you come back and things like that. So it's really trying to see if we're getting at our mission of keeping these talented young professionals in the state and really like helping everybody launch their careers within Alaska. And so just a little nitty-gritty, like kind of wrap up that you probably all want to know. As part of the program, housing and utilities is covered, so you do not have to pay your housing. You also get a $1,000 a month stipend plus $500 as a relocation expense to get you up here in the first place. And not on this slide, but if you complete the entire program, at the end, we give you a $500 honorarium as kind of an incentive to complete the entire thing, including there's a couple surveys and different things like that we want everyone to fill out. You're guaranteed some time off, plus also the time for the retreats. But with that, you do agree to work for your hosts for 40 hours a week. So it is a full-time position. You're also required to attend the retreats. And really, we want you to be contributing to your community and contributing to your fellow cohort. And then due to current COVID times, there are some COVID policies. And just to hit on that quick, this last year, we required everyone to be fully vaccinated. Next year, we will require everyone to be fully vaccinated and boosted if eligible. And then at the beginning of the program year, the site coordinator sits the entire house down and everyone kind of negotiates their COVID rules. And as y'all know, it's changing so fast that this is all really fluid. So I can't give you any hard and fast rules about what things are right now, because who knows what will be by September. But yeah, we do make sure that there is a conversation at the beginning of the year around COVID, so that everyone in the house is on the same page and everyone's expectations are out there, so that there's no there's nothing weird that pops up. And the site coordinator really helps the house facilitate continued conversation around that so that everyone feels comfortable and we stay within everyone's comfort range. And so right now, the application period is open. And you can see here's the link. And so in general, the application covers, there's a Google form that you have to fill out that covers kind of some communal living questions, what your past experiences are and things like that. We also ask for a cover letter, in general, resumes and references. But I do encourage you to look at each position description. So on the website, each position has its own description that details out who the host is, what the position entails and stuff like that. And a couple of the hosts do ask for additional documents, such as a sample PowerPoint presentation or a writing sample, or I think there's one that asks for transcripts. So do make sure that you look at each position description and make sure that you've included the material that they ask for. And then we do highly encourage folks to reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to past alumni to find out, to ask any questions or to get a deeper understanding of the program. And I think with that, we are to questions. So if anyone has any questions, please do go ahead and ask them. And you can raise your hand or you can just speak up and ask out loud. So. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You're muted though.
Sorry. Thanks a lot, Tina. That was really nice to hear, and especially the community that you built seems really strong. I'm wondering what level do you expect the candidates to be at? Is it something that graduate students can also look at, or is it specifically for undergrads? And if you can just, eligibility wise, if there's anything else that we should know.
Yes. So there's no specific eligibility requirements. So just finished with graduate school or undergrad or that is all fine. The requirement is more that you be in a position where living communally works. So if you're married with a couple of kids, it's not going to be a good fit, because moving into a house with a bunch of other folks is not really a viable option. But if you've just finished a master's and you're interested in it, that's perfectly fine. We this year we have somebody he's almost done with his master's, he's in the program, and we have another person who's finished hers that's in the program. So it's not does not bar you from being in the program at all. Any other questions? And I'm going to pop some links into the chat here from my slides. So
I have a question.
Go for it.
So what are going to be the out-of-pocket expenses of the program? Like, I see that housing is included. So what are we going to have to pay for ourselves?
Yes, great question. And I guess it depends a little bit on how frugally you can live. So we do, and then probably where you're relocating from. So once you're here, we do give you a $500 reimbursement for relocating. If it costs you more than that to get here, we can't reimburse for more. So we've had fellows that have shipped their car in the past, and we're not able to reimburse for the full cost of shipping your car or things like that. That being said, the $1,000 is enough to live. It's not necessarily, if you have student loans that are coming up at this point, we're not eligible to, well, I take that back. So depending on what the COVID rules and what the federal government comes up with COVID, this year, I think everyone was still able to keep their loans in forbearance because of COVID, but our program is not set up to check the government boxes for keeping your loans in forbearance. So if if the $1,000 isn't going to cover your student loan payments, then that will also be on you. And And the closing and opening, all the retreats and things like that are fully paid by the program. So you're not going to have to pay yourself to get yourself to Juneau for the closing retreat or to get to Anchorage for the opening retreat. So those things are covered. So it's really, I guess, what the out-of-pocket expenses would be, whatever extras don't fit in the $1,000 budget as far as what you're expending day to day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And we also, just to be clear, we don't offer health insurance. So most fellows are able to stay on their parents' health insurance, or we do offer, we can help you navigate the federal insurance marketplace, but we don't have insurance through the fellowship at this point. And then I see a hand up, but I'll get to that one second. We did have a question in the chat about whether you can apply for more than one position. And the answer is yes, you can. Please don't just check all 27 of them on the form, but because I do want people to look through the different positions and pick the ones that they're most interested in and the ones they fit, but you can't apply for more than one. Anya, is that how you say it?
Yep, you're right. Thank you. I was wondering if we are graduating off cycle, so if we're graduating in December rather than in the spring of whatever year, is it okay to apply for the program the next year, or do you have to apply straight out of school?
So the one thing would be is that the positions change every year. So the positions that are up online right now are the ones that will be running starting this September. So I would, if you're not going to be available until next September, so September 23, I would maybe just bookmark and hold on, because that the specific positions in your applications for those specific positions, we don't roll them forward if you're not available right now, purely because the positions might change. Like the hosts organizations, we have some that come and go and like do every other year. We have some that so we have hosts that will have a fellow and decide to keep that fellow, so that role is no longer open and they come up with a new role for a different fellow. So those the positions and the roles within the host organizations are changing every year. So
got it. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. How many positions does a typical applicant apply for? I would say it's anywhere from 1 to 10 or so, depending. I mean, we have some that are like dead set on one position, or they have some kind of contact, or they know the host, or they're just like, this is what they're passionate about, and that's what they apply for. And we have others that are, they're much more interested in a broad range of different positions. I do ask that there is a field within the form to let me know which ones you're most interested in. That way, if it's your 10th option and there's 12 other people that are more interested in it than you are, it lets me do a little bit of ranking and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say anywhere between 1 and 10 is usually what people apply for. And I should add, I think I missed so the Juneau positions. So in Fairbanks, Anchorage, and Sitka, the positions run September 1 through May 31st. And in Juneau, because of the tourist season and our housing becomes tourist housing in the summer, it's actually October 1 through end of April. So it's a 7-month period in Juneau because our housing's not available during tourist season.
I have a question about the cover letters. Mm-hmm. Is it, would you prefer for us to write a separate cover letter for each host that we're applying to? Or is it only like you were saying about how some of the hosts have different requirements for what they would like?
Yeah, so do read the position descriptions. I think almost all of the hosts require a cover letter, and you are able to upload more than one cover letter. So in just kind of best practices about cover letters, usually hosts like it if it shows up in your cover letter that you've done a little bit of research about who they are and stuff like that. So I personally would recommend writing individualized cover letters for each host, and then just making sure noting in the file name, because then I will send them to those particular hosts. That being said, within the Google form, there's kind of some prompts about what to include in your cover letter. that goes over well, like why you and why Alaska and why, you think this position would really benefit you and how you would benefit the hosts. It's kind of just general guidelines, but you are able to upload multiple cover letters if you'd like to personalize them for each host you're interested in. Okay. Are the references contact info? Okay. Please don't upload letters of reference. None of the hosts have asked for letters of reference. It's like you're not applying for a scholarship where they want letters of reference. They want to be able, the process is they will look through your application and read your cover letter and your resume and all of that. And then in general, they'll call you for interviews. And then if they want to hire you, they'll go through your references. So it's just names and current contact information and stuff like that is what we need for references. And do make sure that all your contact information is current so that the hosts can contact you if they want to interview you. So yeah, but just references, no letters needed. So do you know how many people usually apply to the program? How many people are accepted? Does it vary every year? So there should be, as long as I get my last two hosts to get me their position descriptions, there should be 29 positions. So that's how many fellows will be hired this year. And it ranges anywhere from, I would say, up to 200, 250 applicants. COVID times has been a little funny lately. Last year, not as many people were moving around, I feel, because of COVID. So I don't have a good prediction of what this year will bring because COVID is a weird beast and has thrown some wrenches into things. But I would say that it's usually relatively competitive as far as how many applicants. So. Okay, go ahead. How do you say Pratima? Is that how you say your name?
Hi. Yeah, Pratima. I'm curious, I have to drop off for a class, but I'm wondering if you have an email or if I have more questions that I can reach out to someone in your team.
Yes. Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks a lot for your time and sharing that wonderful program.
Yeah, and sorry about the struggles at the beginning.
No worries at all.
So thank I feel like, yeah. And here I'm also going to plop in kind of another link to the program guide, which is a Google Doc that is also on our website that gives a little bit more background and everything like that in there. And do check out the all of the position descriptions at this link as well. So, okay, let's see. Are the applications rolling? I know it's due on April 3rd, but does priority go to those applications that come in earlier? So if your application comes in before April 3rd, there's no priority given to that. On April 3rd, I will then forward what's come in to the different hosts to begin their decision and to begin their review process. If there's unfilled positions or the host doesn't like the applicants that have come in or whatever, the position will remain on the website, but review does start April 3rd. So do get your applications in before that. Getting them in March 14th doesn't give you any leg up or whatever. So I won't forward them or they won't start being reviewed until April 3rd. So there's no priority for being early within March, but there is definitely priority for getting your stuff in before April 3rd, because that's when the first round will go to hosts. You're welcome. Any other questions? And please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions. I'm definitely available to answer anything, especially and do look through the alumni list as well, because several of the hosts are past hosts and they've had different fellows and they're all on the alumni list. So you can ask fellows what it's like to work at that host organization. And do read the position descriptions. We do have one position in Outer Coast that really recommends that you talk to a past alumni, and they list a couple on there just so that you get a better understanding of what the position is and what the host is. So do read through the position descriptions. I highly, highly recommend that. Yep, you're quite welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're quite welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I look forward to seeing names come through.